Right, when you're ready.
Okay. So I'm doing my ED on the SARS because it's been in the media a lot, and I think it's quite important to address in general. So, yes, I think that Paris is probably the most important place to start, as it's probably the example that's most fresh in our minds. So far, and I do mean so far because of how many people are still in critical condition, 130 people were killed on Friday the 13th. And there are still many people in intensive care at the moment. There are still obviously debates going on about how best to approach it and what the best steps of prevention are. So I took that off the independence. This is going on at the moment. It behaved exactly how a lot of people thought they would. And I think that despite how that's probably kind of important to have a lot of people thought would be wrong, it's the most understandable reaction. It feels good to use force against force and kind of feel like we're doing something active and progressive against threats. It may have not been the most well thought through solution, but it would have easily felt the best in terms of going out and fighting the people who had just killed their friends and families. And then in the wake of Paris, you get things like this. So on the same day, you had the terrorist bombings, but then you also had the earthquake, the suicide bombings in Baghdad, and ISIS suicide bombings in Beirut. And this all kind of makes us all feel guilty as well, because we feel we're paying too much attention to Paris and that we kind of feel in some way it's slightly inherently racist to kind of be talking about only France. And I think personally it is quite true that the West can be blinkered to disasters unless they are for very special reasons, like in the case of the photo of the little boy who had drowned and was on the beach. We only become receptive when we see something that shocks us. And that caused a reaction. Lots of people signed up to take in charities and were kind of very receptive towards Islam as on the whole. But then that's dissipated to that kind of fervour and enthusiasm. And it's as if we believe that all these events, as these events happen in developing countries, they're more likely to happen. Well, that happens more regularly, but as Paris has just shown us, it can happen anywhere. So, this is what we see sort of coming away. The one on the left is from a protest in Hyde Park last year. And the one on the right is from the aftermath of the shooting in Tunisia at a hotel. And this is the kind of thing we see a lot in the media. These kinds of photos, obviously the one on the right is slightly different, because, well, not slightly different, it is different, of how it's visceral, it's much more kind of active than just a protest. Obviously, this is going to breed some kind of wariness in people here. It just does, and it will continue to do so. Evidence from the survey show that over half of British people believe that Islam clashes with British values. Is that okay? Perhaps, as it's understandable with these photos being present. However, what we don't see is this. The photo on the left is from a student march in Virginia. Even though it doesn't look that big, these are just the people who kind of organised it and were kind of integral members. Around 2,000 people showed up at that march. And this was in America, where a country where over 40% of the population believed the president was not born in America. And why is it we don't see more of this thing? The one on the right happened in Kurdistan, a largely Muslim country. Again, why are we not seeing more of these protests? They're calling them ISIS, which I think is interesting. A lot of people, and especially in the American media, they're calling them Daesh, which is kind of an acronym for, I can't remember exactly what it stands for, but it's kind of a terror group related to Islam. And they hate being called Daesh, so I think we should call them Daesh. They call them ISIS, Islamic State, gives their name and their reputation kind of more of a legitimacy. And so I think we need to kind of address them as Daesh rather than ISIS, and that's what I'm going to do in this talk. So it's a fringe, radical organisation that markets terror very well. And I think that terror may be important to us, rather than the efforts done to actually stop it. Clearly, these are the people that's going to be more close to it. They're going to be the ones on the border to Syria and all the other Middle Eastern countries. I think that's slightly ironic because they're focusing more on the terror rather than the actual efforts done to stop it. However, benefits of Paris. Perhaps I've phrased that strangely, but it's important to address it for what it actually is. In the wake of Paris, huge amounts of Muslims have been writing and tweeting and posting all over social media about how Daesh is not what Islam stands for, and it's not what Islam really means. And we all know that, but it's all important to talk about and recognise that. There's also the hashtag on Twitter, not in my name, which is used mostly for when someone kind of speaks out and supports Muslims. And I think that it was necessary, in a weird way, for a tragedy to occur to allow for greater discussion of the issue. So what we might feel personally. Some of us, either at school, people who we know, people in our family, people all over the country, have something to say on Islam. It's understandable though. It's a question which causes arguments. And I'd say rightly so. Talking about it helps everyone understand it better. You hear all the different opinions. And so, and as evidence of this kind of being wary, or people being wary, following the 9/11 attack in New York, there had been a Muslim family living in one of the apartment blocks near. They'd been living there for about 7 years, and what they had kind of been going out and coming back during the attack had been taking place. And they were kicked out of their home, even though they had already made great friends with the neighbours. Just immediately after the attacks, everything kind of changed. On the other hand, some of us may have people we know who are Muslim, and can think of no one less likely to be an angry, up with Sharia law in protester who roots for the guys who killed Lee Rigby. Out of 1.57 billion Muslims, 0.003% of them support radical Islam. They don't even fight for them necessarily, they just approve. And what I feel, I mean, I am wary, and I'm happy to admit that, but I'm no more wary than I am as someone who supports UKIP. It's slightly confusing to me, but then again, I'm atheist, I don't really support any religion on the whole. What I want is for more clarity. I want to hear more opinions and more facts about what's going on, so I can form my own opinion and you can form your own opinions. Right. So these are the people who have the most power in terms of how our opinions are changed. So, okay, the media hold the most sway. Obviously, naturally, we kind of trust newspapers. It's just kind of built into us. But we have to question what they say and what they're telling us. It's fairly simple, we just have to recognise that. ISIS, they will continue to try and make people afraid of them. That is their point. They're terrorists and they're not an army, no matter how much they're likely to have you believe that. And governments are the ones who will be making decisions on whether we bomb Syria or go into Iraq again or something like that. They're the ones making decisions on whether people should be afraid or not. And they are effectively in charge of how we deal and react to this all. They can place thousands of soldiers in it and it could be a huge mistake. So obviously they're important. Moderate Muslims, this is quite controversial, but is there more they could be doing in terms of changing the face of Islam? After the Charlie Hebdo attacks, we had the kind of massive millions of people protesting, saying, we're not going to go down with a fight, without a fight and all that. But we didn't see many large protests from the moderate Muslim community saying this isn't what Islam is about. And maybe they were, but we just didn't hear enough of it. Maybe it's just a link between the media and the moderate Muslims. And it's more of what those who are more wary of ISIS need to see. They need to see more kind of critics of radical Islam by Muslims. Should there be someone to blame? Maybe we shouldn't question who's to blame now, it's too late in a sense. Let's just focus on amending any issues to make sure no more stupid mistakes happen. That creates more death for people who are close to it, like the protests in Kurdistan. And concentrating on dealing with the issue of fear, which is the point of ISIS. Thank you. Why is this relevant to us? Relevant in the sense of the time frame. We are at a stage where important decisions are being made about what to do with comparatively little understanding of going in kind of quick reactions to terror attacks. And there are only 13 Muslim MPs in Parliament, so it's kind of hard to say they have a chance to defend and kind of give them an opposing voice, even though it's a question, that it's a debate that involves them probably the most intrinsically. And then, why it's important for us. We are the next generation who will have the chance to make the decisions. We need to make sure we understand both sides of this story. That is, if it is still unfortunately an issue in the future. And I hope it is. There will always be people who are afraid of Islam, just as there has been for the last thousands of years. And hopefully, and I hope we do, we have to accept that. We just have to accept that there will be critics, and we just kind of have to talk about the, on the whole, majority of people that believe what they believe. Hopefully it does change. We need to be the ones that people use as examples. And thank you for listening.